Hello everybody. Pawns cannot go backwards. So you must be very careful when playing with your pawns in chess. But I notice as a chess coach that people just shamelessly play with their pawns when they don't know what to do in the position. They play with their pawns like there's no tomorrow. There's no real considerations. There is no understanding of how committal that pawn move is. So in this video, I will show you 5 big areas of pawn play that I've witnessed people go terribly wrong. I will show you 5 instructive positions involving pawn play. In all these 5 positions, it would be better if they did not make a move at all instead of playing with that pawn. This position is black to play, and black just went e5 in the actual game. Oh my god, that's a textbook example of a chess crime, because look what black is doing as a result of this pawn move. He's weakening this beautiful d5 square on... Now it becomes an outpost for white. It weakens this square on d6. It leaves that d7 pawn as a backward and weak pawn on a semi-open file. It closes down the bishop, and after knight d5, white already achieves a completely winning advantage. An incredible slip. It looks like an innocent pawn move, and my student actually played this move without thinking in actual rapid game. Beautiful textbook example of committal nature of pawn moves and chess crimes involving pawns. So lesson number 1, with every single pawn move, you're creating weaknesses, right? Because pawns cannot go backwards. So this pawn already moved from e7, which means there's less control on d6 and on d5 squares from now on. And black had no consideration about these long-term factors when he played the move e7, e5. Keep this in mind and your positional play will improve. Another big problem when it comes to pawn play: people play hope chess. In this position, white went d5, and obviously he was hoping that black will take that pawn on d5, which will give white an amazingly beautiful d5 outpost, right? Knight takes d5, and white will have a crashing advantage because white has extra space. Look at the black pieces, lots of buried pieces in the black's position. So white will achieve a competitive winning position if we were playing checkers, and if this would be actually a forcing move, okay? In the actual game, guess what black player did in this position? Chess crime number 2. Well, taking on d5 would also be a chess crime, of course, but in the actual game, black went b6. Another very committal pawn move, guys. And please tell me how white should play in this position to punish this move. Obviously, b7, b6 was a terrible move because it actually weakened the pawn on c6. Thus, white simply takes the pawn on c6 and creates this beautiful strong square for his pieces, right? Now this pawn no longer can recapture on c6, and after queen takes c6, knight d5, white is completely winning, right? So you can say actually it's beautiful mistakes for both players. d4, d5, white hopes that black will take, and black doesn't take, but black actually allows white to achieve its dream after this. And it happens all the time in club level players, amateur games, and please folks, please be aware of these things. Don't play hope chess when you make pawn moves. For example, after d4, d5, what should black do, folks? You tell me the best move. Yes, black should play c5, and at least black is denying that d5 outpost to white pieces. Obviously, white is still better because of extra space, but given the black king is in the center, it's good for black to close up the center completely and gain time for organizing some pieces, right? Look at those pieces. Final point of why this one was terrible: that if black didn't make a move or make a random move a6, white would not get what he got in the actual game, right? Because after takes, black would recapture with the pawn, thus deny this d5 outpost to white pieces. Again, it's a beautiful chess crime because not making a move will be better for black than pushing the pawn to b6. Incredible, right? Folks, another big area of mistakes around pawn play: people make a pawn move and awaken a dead enemy piece. What am I talking about? In this position, black went terribly wrong with f6 because he is not doing a justice to his knight on h5. And can you guess the chess crime which happened in the actual game? White very quickly played the move g4, and oh my god, this terrible knight on h5 now can sit nicely on this f4 square, and after takes, the game is completely equal. Look at the bishop on g2. By pushing g4, white has voluntarily buried his own piece on g2 and let that terrible knight on h5 to come back into the game. Beautiful chess prime with the move g4. What should white do? I think bishop f3 is a nice move because you're simply driving that knight to a terrible spot on g7. Just look how terrible that knight is on this spot. It's never going to be easy for that piece to ever come to the game again. White has so much extra space. Even our bishop can find some job in the future on this diagonal. It's not dead. And after simple exchanges on the queen side, white would claim an advantage. But if you go g4 in this position, folks, just look at the differences, right? And white played this move very, very quickly in the actual game. And suddenly he left with a terrible bishop on g2. That's what I mean. This g4 pawn is blocking this guy. And black is having a beautiful game. Plus, black got himself, right, a protected passed pawn on f4 as a result of this trade. Folks, please understand, whenever you make a pawn move, that's a lesson. Whenever you make a pawn move, you must always ask yourself whether you're giving away good squares for the enemy pieces. In my book, The Art of Awakening Pieces on Chessable, I had a separate chapter about this. Awakening the enemy pieces with pawn play. Another big problem when it comes to pawn play that I've witnessed as a coach is people don't know when to open or when to close the game. They make a pawn move and allow the game to open in favor for your opponent. Here, it's black to play, folks. If I ask you whether it's d5 or d6, what would you say? You have two choices. Just evaluate the whole position. Look at the big picture first. Black has an extra pawn, right? If black has an extra pawn right now, it comes from Evans Gambit. It's actually a beautiful game between Paul Morphy versus his father, Alonso Morphy here. So Paul, with white pieces, went for Evans Gambit. Obviously, black won a pawn, but black needs to be careful, right? Because look at white's development. He's already castled, and black needs so many moves, yeah, to be able to castle his king. So, is it d6 or d5, folks? You tell me. d6 will be correct. Congratulations if you come up with the move d6, because you slowly want to improve your pieces, maybe get the bishop to g4, get those pieces out, and castle your king, and take it from there. Okay. But in the actual game, the father, Alonso Morphy, went d5 and allowed white to open up the game, right? I mean, your king is in the center and you're inviting white to take on d5 and thus gain activity around the e-file. And look at this. Paul Morphy played bishop a3 and also he's eyeing that black king. Now the black king can no longer castle king side. So the father tried bishop e6 with the hope of castling long. But look what Paul Morphy did. Knight c3, queen d7, and can you find the crashing move for white in this position, folks? Yes, another pawn move, d5, and now white is forcefully opening up the e-file and removing that bishop from its defensive post on e6, and the game finished very, very nicely. Well, you can even play rook e1 directly, but Paul Morphy is going for a brilliant surprise. Takes rook e1, and you can already understand, right? The black king has no shelter in the center of the board because black played d5. Paul Morphy activates all of his pieces and then goes for the mating blow in two moves. Can you find white to move and mate in two, folks? That's a beautiful finish. Rook f7 followed by rook f8, a double check and a beautiful checkmate on the board. Paul Morphy, masterpiece against his father, but his father called for it with the move d5, right? Black should have played much more careful in this position, try to keep everything as close as possible, but he lashes out with the pawn move d5 and only allows white, only allows white pieces to start an attack against the king. Just look at the effect of this move. Even the bishop gained scope on this diagonal and the rook got an open file after e takes d5. A beautiful comparison. You can learn tremendously from such comparisons. Is it d5 or d6? And again, right, just look how committal this d5 pawn move was. Another big mistake that I witnessed as a coach with pawn play, guys, is when people are playing with pawn storms. It's white to play here, and can you guess the chess crime which happened in the actual game? Yes, white player went h5 and he made his task much more difficult to open up lines on the king side. That's a pawn storm position, and what's the best move for white, please? Congratulations if you came up with g5. Obviously, because white is already better developed, white already castle his king, the black king is in the center, and white wants to activate on the h file and start attacking the black king, right? In such sharp positions, pawn play is very important with the idea of creating lines and files for our pieces. So g5 is an opening move. White is opening up the game. But instead, white made an extremely committal decision h5. I still have no idea why he played this move. Maybe he wanted to fix the pawn first and then maybe play g5. But look, if he didn't make this move, white would be better off. If white make a random move, just wait. Even a3 in this position would be better than g5. Incredible, right? He's also, by going h5, he's limiting his later options because the pawns cannot go backwards, folks. After g5, obviously white is so much better. If you take twice, well, I mean, look at your king, right? Look at your king. And already my rook is invading the 8th rank. It's just game over for black. And after g5, if the knight goes here, can you see a nice follow-up for white, folks? Congratulations, you found the move g6. And white is destroying that pawn chain around the black king, activating his knight as well. If you take my pawn, then it's already game over after knight e6. Look at that, knight on e6. Otherwise, I will take on f7 and your king will never be safe. I will open files, like for example, the g file will be open, e6 pawn will be weak. These are coming and my attack is raging. It's as simple as that, folks. A very nice pawn move in this case for white. And compare this move with the actual chess crime that happened in the actual game. I hope you enjoyed this episode, folks. Obviously, there are more concepts around pawn play that we should be careful about. I told you 5 very important areas of pawn play that I've witnessed that people go wrong. Please give me feedback on YouTube. Tell me what you're thinking, and I will leave you with this position, folks. Black has an extra 2 pawns in this position, and white just went c5. You tell me, folks. What should black do and what black should avoid doing in this position? In other words, can you please tell me, write me on YouTube, whether b takes c5 is a good move for black in this position. Why or why not? Okay? This will tie it to my next episode on the series, exchanging pieces, because exchanges is equally committal to pawn play in chess, folks. I made a chessboard course about the art of exchanging pieces. And also I talk about the committal nature of piece trades. We should always take our time when it comes to pawn play. We should always look at the drawbacks of our pawn moves, which squares we are leaving behind. Are we activating the enemy pieces? Are we actually helping out our pawn storm? Should we open or close the game? And so on, right? Those are the basic questions that should orient you when you play with your pawns. Please take your time and make a good decision with pawn play. Hopefully this video helped you. Again, if you check my chessboard courses, I made 2 courses about pawn play, particularly the art of awakening pieces and the art of burying pieces. Thank you so much, folks, and I will catch you on the very next episode. Bye-bye.